Maybe you heard already of Luminar 3. A lot of people say it's a Lightroom killer, it's a real alternative to Lightroom, it's an alternative to the whole subscription plan of Adobe. So I had to check that program, Luminar 3, and the full review and my opinion about that program you see in this video. I downloaded Luminar 3 on my computer. I have the test version running now. I took a close look at the program. I used Luminar 2018 before and took a look last year on the program, but they changed a lot of things. I will tell you now. I used Lightroom for many years since it is existing, I would say, and Photoshop over 11 or 12 years. I have no idea. So I know the different programs very well, and for all people that want to know what machine I'm using right now, I'm using a 2016 MacBook with 2.7 gigahertz Intel Core i7, 16 GB RAM, so not that slow of a machine, just that you realize that, because I did a whole Affinity review and people did not like what I said about Affinity, but yeah, it was my honest truth, and I will say my honest truth about Luminar 3. Is it really a Lightroom killer? And why is it important if there's a program that is a Lightroom killer? Yeah, I can quite understand it, because a lot of people are annoyed of the price politics of Adobe. When we look at the Adobe website here in Germany, it costs $11.89 to get a subscription of Lightroom CC. But this is only Lightroom CC. What I recognize now, I have the Creative Cloud photography plan for 3 years, or since they changed it to the Creative Cloud, because as a professional it's not that expensive to pay $11.89 each month. That's not much per year. We can now just calculate it, 11.89 by 12 months, which means that. And then when you say you maybe have a program for, let's say, 3 years, and then you update to a newer version or something, yeah, then it costs 428 euro. But for a professional worker, it's not that much. It's 428 by 3 years. Compared to before, when Photoshop was a standalone program and Lightroom was a standalone program, you had to pay much more for only Photoshop to get it. And now for $11.89 you get Photoshop, you get Lightroom CC, which is that thing which costs the same, I have no idea, and you get Lightroom CC Classic, which is the old Lightroom, and all for that, and 20 GB of some storage space. But when you want more, 1 terabyte, it then costs 23 euro, which is not that cheap anymore when you scale it up to 3 years or something. But even the 428 euro, when you say you are just a hobby photographer and you photograph maybe each weekend or every 2 weeks or once a month and you just want a program, then I can understand that people are not willing to pay 428 euro for 3 years, because it's a whole lot of money. On the other hand, there is Luminar 3, which costs in Germany 69 euro. And they advertise by saying you have to pay once and you get the program because you own the program and you don't have to pay anymore. So you pay 69 euro, and when you now say for 3 years and then you update to maybe Luminar 4 when it's out or something, then you only had paid 69 euro. On the other hand, you had paid over 400 euro for the whole subscription plan of Adobe. And I can understand, for a hobby photographer, that's quite a difference. That means in photography language, you can buy yourself a new lens, a new tripod, you can make a nice vacation, a photography trip, you can eat a lot of döner kebab, and yeah, then I can understand that people want an alternative for Lightroom and for the whole Adobe subscription thing. Let's see if Luminar 3 really is an alternative, and maybe it is even a Lightroom killer. What's new in Luminar 3 when we now look at the program? You have a whole library. Sorry that everything is in German for everybody who's speaking English, but I don't know how to change the language. I checked in the settings, but in settings you can only say, okay, how much caching do you want? and it's in English actually, in the German version, but never mind. So I have no idea to change the language. But what I like a lot, they now put the whole library thing, which you know from Lightroom as well, into Luminar. So you have all your files, all your photos now in a nice overview, and you can see all the images, you can rate the images just like you know it from Lightroom. And what I like a lot, you can just go on the plus here on the right hand side, and you can then just set a folder. And in my case, for example, I work from external drives. I have here the Extreme SSD external drive. I have a folder which says Photos 2019. I have a RAW folder, and in that RAW folder there are different files I photographed. And in this case there is a whole France trip. So I just say RAW file and import it, and it's actually done already. And whenever something new is added to that RAW file, it will appear here. The great thing is, it does not take everything as a copy, but what it does, it leaves the stuff on the external drive and just gives you some quick overview here, and it loads very, very fast compared to Lightroom. When you want to import a whole library to Lightroom or a whole folder with new images, it takes a lot of time to load that stuff. So that is very fast actually here. And as you can see, I was in France and there were some nice landscapes, and I did the whole video in German as well. So for the English version, I will take some other images. So what image do we want to take? So maybe let's take some of those images here. Let's take this image here. So now you can just go through the images, and what I like a lot, it looks some kind of a portfolio website layout. So the different scales are different viewed here in the whole library thing. So I like this image, so I would say I give the image stars, and you can do that in Luminar as well, just like you know it from Lightroom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on your keyboard is the same here with the stars. You can also set favorites, which I think is a clever idea, because you can say what are my favorite images of a year, let's say 2019 or of all time, and you just set it with a heart like on Instagram and say that is your favorite. And here on the right hand side now you have favorites, and there you can see there are favorites. And this image here I edited in the German video, so if you understand German, watch the German video as well. Okay, now let's go back. So I have this image here, it has 5 stars, so you can rate and sort all your images, and then you can say just show me everything which has above 3 stars, 4 stars, and so on. So there are now 2 images, and when I want this image now to edit, now comes the fun part, and what is actually what people will buy a post-processing program for. There's the image now, and what I like about Luminar 3 a lot is how they thought a great image editing program should be like, because they mix the old stuff and the new stuff what people like. People like filter today, but it's not like presets like Instagram presets or hipster presets or moody whatever presets for Lightroom. You can have them here as well. You can even integrate LUTs, you know, from video editing. You can make them on your photos here as well, but it's more like Nik filter, if you know Nik filter. So you have different, you can say layers, and they are filters, and you can make different settings on the filters and then apply them to your image. And in this case, there's now fast and genius, it's saying here in English. And you can choose between different things. We just leave it like it is. You can just click yourself in the test version and try it out for yourself. And there are now some things presetted. It is the Accent AY filter and the AY Sky Enhancer. AY means artificial intelligence. And that's what it is. It gives you, over algorithm or whatever, some suggestions how your image should be edited. So in this case, it would say, make the sky a bit more poppy and make the foreground a bit brighter and put the contrast and dynamic a bit up, and then the image is done. So you can just pull it up and say, okay, I'm done, I'm finished. But that's not what we do. What I like a lot, I will just pull it a bit up because I like it a bit. And what you can do now then, which is quite similar to Photoshop, you can work in layers. So all those are stacked. And you can work just like you know it from layers in Photoshop, and now choose a brush or choose a radial mask or even a gradient and just, paint it in your image. And what it does now, it will set it back, and wherever you paint, it is visible. You can change brush size and everything. I will just do it rough now to demonstrate it in the video. Okay, just like this, so a bit for the foreground, maybe a bit for the sea, and then I'm done with that. And then you can say, okay, make it more or make it less or whatever you like. So you can do the whole stuff. What you can do as well is make it visible. You can see your mask, and then via Alt or just by releasing it, you can say, okay, delete something or bring it back in the image. And by clicking on the eye, you can make it invisible again. The sky enhancer gives you some more drama in the sky, baby. But yeah, it works sometimes it does not work, so don't relate on that artificial intelligence, but you can try it out for yourself. Then in the lower bottom here, you have the whole opacity of the filter. So you can say, I have all the filters here, but I like post-processing only a little, so I just want it on 50%, everything. And then you have all your filters only on 50% and then can export the file. And now comes the real fun part, because those are just some simple filters. You can add filters, and when you click here, you have all the filters which are in Luminar 3 already. And it reminds a bit, that's why I said Nik filters, it reminds a bit on Nik filters. And it's having a lot of great filters, but the most important I show you first, it's the raw filter. And you can only apply them once, that's what I saw. And what you can do now, just like you know it from Lightroom or from other programs, Affinity or whatever, you can now adjust all your settings, like bring the highlights down, or maybe you can bring the shadows up. What you also can do, just like you know from Lightroom or from other editing programs, you can make some lens corrections, you can get rid of chromatic aberrations and so on, and you can transform your image, and also you can crop your image, you find it up here, and you can also delete like dust spots and stuff, so you can clone and stamp things. But I show you some filters which I like a lot here, so there are plenty of filters and you just have to click through them to see what they're actually doing. And one of the filters I think is quite clever, you find down here, and it's a gradient, but let's say an intelligent gradient, because you can say when you go down here, top part of the image or lower part of the image. You can say the top part of the image, I set the exposure down and I put the contrast up and I bring the dynamic up or something. And you can say in the lower part of the image, I want to brighten everything and I want less contrast maybe, but as well some dynamic. And then you can say, okay, but I want to adjust it a bit more, that it's leveled with the horizon and everything. You can bring it like this. And that is a cool filter. It's just simple, but in Lightroom you have to take two gradients to do it, and here you have one filter and you can just apply it on your image. Another filter is the microstructure filter, so you have some HDR-like microstructure you can add to your image. You can also set a bit more blurriness or soft style to the image, and as mentioned, you can just now go on the brush and brush in what you like or brush out what you like. So I'll just leave it now as it is. And another crazy filter which I've never seen before is the sun ray filter. You find it up here, sun ray. But as you see, as I'm scrolling through the thing, sometimes it's a bit buggy. So now it's not going anymore. It says go on this filter, go on this, but I don't want. I want this filter. But now there it is. What this filter does is crazy, and as mentioned, I've never seen a filter like this. What you can do, and it's so much fun to just do it, you can drag the filter, and look how crazy this filter works. It's amazing. Only for that filter I would buy the program. Look how it works. It goes behind the clouds. You don't need any clipping skills or anything. It just goes automatically behind the clouds. How amazing is this? And if the program knows where clouds are, it must be very easy to just place a new sky or something. But now I just will place the sun where the sun would be in this case if the sun would be there. So it would be somewhere down here. You see, when it's going down, it's not there anymore. It's crazy. And when there's something in the way, like the lighthouse in the German version, you can see it up here. I edited the lighthouse, and there, when you went behind the lighthouse, the rays changed, and that was just crazy. Yeah, now you can change a lot of things. You can bring it up or bring it down. So I will now bring it up. I will change the look maybe a bit more to this thing. You can now change the number of rays. What is more interesting for you? You might say, it's not that realistic, but wait, you can change the length and everything, so you can make it a bit smaller or a bit longer. You can change the color temperature, and you can change the radius of the sun, so you can make it more like this and more. And you see, when you just work a bit on that thing, it's crazy what you can do. So yeah, just spend some time and play a bit with that filter, and it's a lot of fun. Maybe I just do videos now with that filter and show you where to put a sun or something. Yeah, so in this case, I think it's very cool. It's a lot of fun. Just bring the temperature maybe up here as well. And there are many creative things you can do, a lot of filters and a lot of stuff you can apply onto your image. So editing is pretty cool in Luminar 3. So what is then the negative part of Luminar 3? I would say the most negative thing I could recognize were some bugs. And I don't like bugs because I want a program, when I buy a program, that is stable. I don't want to be a tester, I just want a solid program. And the small bug that you saw here, that it's not scrolling anymore, is just a very small bug. I had bugs when I was zooming in. We can try that out. I just go on finish here. You see now I click on finish, but it does not finish, so I have no idea, that's also a bug. I just clicked on that image, now I'm back on that image and now it's working again, but those are the bugs I'm talking about. Also, when you're zooming in, sometimes a lot of bugs appearing. Right now, you see it's changing. When I'm zooming and zooming, then it tries to render, to apply the filter and everything, and sometimes that is very time consuming to find out where the bug now is. Also, when you want to export stuff, this is the real downside. I think the bugs they can fix when they make an update and everything. That is not that big of an issue. Lightroom has bugs as well, Photoshop has bugs, Premiere CC has the biggest bugs. I think the whole program is a bug. But yeah, let's go back to Luminar 3. When I want to export an image, what photographers usually do, I click on export, and then I can choose a folder. Just like you can make a new folder. Then you have here some presets like sharpening, you can set the size, you can choose the color space, you have different formats, and you can choose the quality, set it on 100, and now I will name it just France Luminar. And when I now click on save, it takes a lot of time. It takes that much time that I will make a cut now, and we see us back in 1 minute. I'm not joking. There we are. And you can see in the time in the here up there that really 1 minute is over. I did some stopping on my iPhone and really took for one file 1 minute to export it. Of course, the files are 42 megapixels. It's a Sony a7R II, and you can actually see the meta files and everything when you go up here on info. But anyway, I tested the same image in Lightroom. It was 7 seconds. 7 freaking seconds against 1 minute of export. And while it's exporting in Luminar 3, you cannot do anything. You cannot use the program anymore, you cannot go on another image, you cannot rate maybe other images with stars and pre-select your next image you want to edit. It's not possible, so you have to wait for 1 minute. Well, it's a bit of slowing down, which is very cool, life, work balance and everything. But on the other hand, I don't want it as a professional. I want it fast, and in Lightroom you can edit while you are exporting. And when you want to export a lot of images, it then takes a lot of time to do it in Luminar 3. That, I would say, is the biggest issue. But on the other hand, it only costs €69 and the editing is great and there are great filters and you have some nice libraries, which I think are almost better than in Lightroom. So yeah, what's the deal? Anyway, I think it's a great program. So I can say Luminar 3 is kind of a Lightroom killer. I would say Luminar 3 is the best program actually out there for photography beginners or hobby photographers, because it's much cheaper, you don't have a subscription, you pay it once and you can use it as long as you want. You can use it in 5 years when you have the same computer. And I know a lot of photographers, I'm kind of the same. I mean, I have my old MacBook, which is from 2014 or 15. I still use it. I still do Photoshop and stuff because it's still okay. And when you have a camera and don't update it for 5 years, you can run the same program with the same camera and there are updates out and everything. You can just use it, and I can totally understand if you don't want a subscription. So I would say for hobby photographers, it's actually the best program out there. I would say it's better than Affinity. Affinity is a bit different. It's not like Lightroom and you don't have the whole thing like here. It's made different. It's more of a Photoshop competitor. But this here, it's a mix between all the good things you have in Photoshop, which you need as a photographer, and everything which is great in Lightroom. Some things are not that good, like the export stuff, and sometimes it's buggy. But all in all, for $69, you cannot do much wrong. But on the other hand, I would say if you are a professional photographer, do it as your job, and you need to edit a lot of images fast every day, then Luminar 3 how it is right now is not the option you might choose. But the great thing is you can edit or pre-edit your images here in Luminar 3, then go over to Photoshop. So you can do a mix between both. That is also possible. You don't have to choose, I only use one or the other program. You can actually use both programs as well, and that would be an option. But maybe when they update it in the future, maybe we see us in the end of 2019 or in the beginning of 2020, and I will say, well, Luminar 3 is a great program for pros and hobby photographers, and is a real Lightroom killer. And I would say now Lightroom has to do some stuff. So I can't understand why Lightroom is not available for buying anymore, and why Lightroom is not cheaper than Lightroom and Photoshop together. I cannot understand that, honestly. But yeah, that's just my opinion. When you now say Luminar 3 is the perfect program for me, then wait a second, go in the video description, because there's a coupon code. With that you can save some money when you get the program. Check the video description and tell me your opinion about the program. What do you think when you see that video? Maybe you tested it yourself. You can download your free test version, 30-day trial. Then write me your opinion in the comments below. I really look forward for that. Amongst all comments today, I will give away one of my courses, Quick Commercial at learnfromben.com. We have video courses for photography and as well for image editing, but so far not about Luminar 3. So what do you say? Do you want a course about Luminar 3? Write me your opinion in the comments below. So I will give away today my landscape photography course. The essentials of landscape photography filmed in the beautiful landscape of Norway. You can win that course by just write a comment. Amongst all comments, I will give away one course. So good luck, and I see you in the next video. Maybe with the Luminar 3 tutorial, maybe something else. Write it in the comments below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I check what else Luminar 3 can do.